I think that the summer months are the perfect time to face your fears. There's something about the warmth of the sun. As I mentioned on a previous podcast episode, that Cancer nurturing energy, it is, and coming up on Leo, like that starts really soon too. This is all, it's this nurture and then this strength, right? Um, I think that fear, I know that. I don't think that. I know that fear is the thing that holds people back from making decisions. And we justify that fear because it is more comfortable and easier to justify fear in staying where you are than it is to rip off the band-aid and make a decision for yourself. But with the warmth of summer and the sun and all of this energy to support you, this is the perfect time to do some investigative work, turn inward, ask some insightful questions, do some shadow work, and understand where your fear is coming from and how it's holding you back. We know that you were born magical. We know that you are intuitive, and we know that you are brimming with everyday enchantment. Here at the Sisters Enchanted, we believe in intention, we believe in intuition, and we believe in everyday magic. Welcome in to the Expedition to Soul podcast. Welcome to today's episode of Expedition to Soul. I'm Sarah, founder of the Sisters Enchanted, and summer is an amazing time for shadow work. If you are a student of ours, then you know that the summer season is aligned with the energy of fire in our expansion archetypes. That's the adventurer energy. In our 5I model, our framework, that is our insight energy. What else is it aligned with? It is aligned with the color red in the elements, the season of summer. We already said that one. It is it's an active sort of energy. It is one where we are creating a space to release, or releasing to create space so we can manifest what we want to bring into our lives. But why is summer, like what does this look like? What are we doing here? What are we even talking about? How did we get here? Um in the summer, right? I think it's the perfect time to face some of your fears because there is inherently less fear for us as humans in summer than there is in winter. If we think back to our ancestors before us, winter was a trying experience depending where they lived in the world. Many of us of you know, if you like where I live in Connecticut, right? The winters here are cold and dark and gray and everything is dead. And so that would have been really stressful in the summer or in the winter time. And when you're already under duress, there's no reason to add more to that, which is why we do like questions around how do you want to feel? What are your intentions? How do I want to be? We do that in the winter, right? And in the summer, we're doing our shadow work. And this is where we're asking, what am I afraid of? Because when I look around, there's not that much to be afraid of. Now, if you're like me, and again, I live in Connecticut, I'm pretty afraid of snakes and I'm pretty afraid of ticks, and I've got a lot of those. But, I'm not worried about food on the table. I'm not worried about not having light if the electricity goes out. Like, I have all of those things because it is summertime and it will be warm. It will not be cold and my pipes won't freeze. So realistically, like our energy is just in a more stable place. Our nervous systems are more stabilized this time of year to do this sort of reflective shadow work kind of work. So you want to ask, like, where is fear in your life? And like anything that you say is not possible for you, there's a fear attached to it. So if you say, like, I was thinking recently about I have this habit, it's a hobby, I guess, where I look up obscure PhD programs and I'm like, Sarah, you can get a PhD in this like random obscure thing. And then I'm like, well, then what master's degree do I need to get to do that? And then do I have the bachelor's that'll let me get in there? And then I got to take, whatever test and all these things. Right. But then I will often have some thought come up around like, well, that's silly. Like, I'm not going to pay for that, or I don't have the time for that. Right. The reality is none of that is true because time is something that we can prioritize and we can make and create depending on the choices that we make. Money is a renewable resource. We can always get more money. And so that means that all that's left is fear and vulnerability because time and money are things that we create, barriers that can be solved. Those are solvable barriers. Um, my mindset around, how committed am I to doing this? Do I really want to do it? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid of making the wrong decision? Am I afraid of failing? Am I afraid of feeling like I wasted time? Am I afraid of feeling like I wasted money? Those are feelings. We create our feelings by our thoughts, right? And we go through these loops, and it really comes down to fear. What is it that you're afraid of? In my case, I'm often afraid of feeling like I'm afraid of, well, I'm afraid of trusting. And so I would have to trust a lot of people in order for me to prioritize the time to do something like go back to school. And so there is a fear, right? I've identified a fear. For many people, it could be the fear of failure, the fear of making the wrong decision, the fear of prioritizing yourself. That might sound like a silly fear, but that's a big one, because when you prioritize yourself, it means that you're having to say no to somebody else, or you're having to say no to something else. And then that can feel very, very uncomfortable. That can feel very disorienting, and nobody likes to feel those ways. So then there's a fear of prioritizing yourself. There's a fear of, for many people in our community who like really feel drawn to ceremony and ritual, and this idea of a sacred practice and sacred connection, right? And having like a morning cup of tea that is really a potion for the day, or doing a tarot card pull before you go to bed at night and really grounding into your presence. But there can be a fear of, what will my spouse say when they see me do it? What about the people I work with? What if they find out about this? What if my very religious X, Y, and Z family members, or what if you're religious? What if you're a Christian and you're like, well, what will people think of me? Can I still be a Christian? Can I still have faith if I do these things? And then fear is there, but we'll say to ourselves, I just don't have the time. I just don't have the money. I just don't know if it's for me, right? But really, when we start to peel back the layers of that, there is fear there. And summer is the perfect time to be looking at these fears, because it's warm out. It is bright and sunny. You can get outside and journal with the trees and the bunnies and the butterflies, and have this energy, like this nature supportive earth mother energy, to help you feel calm and grounded in yourself. So much of fear resides in our nervous systems and in our bodies, because we feel like, I heard this number, and I don't, okay, so I'm going to say a number, and I don't know how accurate it is, nor am I know nor do I know if I'm remembering it correctly. But it was something like, if you're like really startled or shocked, that it can take, I don't remember, but I was shocked by the amount of time that this person, whoever it was, claims that it takes you to get that like startle out of your energy. It was like a very long time that sort of lives there and loops through until you have kind of worked it out, which can take like forever. And so, when we have the supportive energy of a beautiful environment, a beautiful natural environment, we are part of the rhythm of the energy of the seasons. That is helping us to ground into ourselves. It's helping us to regulate our own nervous systems, because we can get comfortable with the grass. We can get comfortable with nature, and we can look and remember that we're part of something that is bigger than us. Like, just look at any tree around you that is much bigger than you, and suddenly you are a teeny tiny speck on this earth, and your fears become teeny tiny. And this is all part of putting yourself into the rhythm of the seasons around you. That's why we work with seasons. It's why we work with moon cycles, because these rhythms are built in for a reason, and they impact us when we tune into them. It's when we take ourselves away and we disconnect, we pull the plug on our connection to these rhythms, that we become really disoriented, and we get just burdened by life and these fears, and we can't find our way out again. And so connect into that, plug into it, and take the support that is there for you to ground yourself, to center yourself, to relax yourself, to let some of this go, and start to address some of the fears that are really holding you back. I see people who, they'll learn tarot with us, but they're afraid of reading it wrong. So they don't enjoy reading tarot, or like they have all these beautiful tarot cards, but they feel like too shy to use them, or they feel like they're going to do it wrong and someone's going to notice, and then they don't use them, and they'll just sit on a shelf forever and for always. But that's a fear that is coming up, or the fear to tell your spouse that like you want to try something different in your relationship, or you want to be spoken to differently, or you want to eat different foods, or you want to pump up the passion a little bit. I don't know what you want to do, but there is fear there that holds us back. But we will say there's no time, or I'm not in the mood, or I don't have the energy, or I don't have the money, or I don't have the capacity. You know what? All of those are solvable problems, all of them. Fear, though, is the thing that will keep you thinking none of those problems are solvable and keep you right where you are henceforth, forever and for always. And you got to uncover that fear, which is why in the summer we do shadow work. Now, if you haven't seen our free Stage Magic digital magazine, you'll want to grab that because there's some great shadow work prompts in there for you. And in about a week, we're hosting a free workshop, You as Sacred Space, and talking about you as sacred space, creating the container, the energy for you as sacred space in your own life. And we'd love to have you join us for that. We'll put the link so you can sign up. It's going to be great. And anyway, so think about this shadow work in the summertime. Where is the fear coming from? That's all part of shadow work, is doing that investigative work, asking, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of that? And what's going to happen if I don't do something about it and take action in spite of the fear that I have, right? Because that's how you get on the other side of fear. You just prove to yourself there's nothing to be afraid of. But to do that, you got to take a leap. Which would be like me in my fear of snakes. Somebody told me recently that they saw like we have these big black snakes where I live, and allegedly they're harmless. That's what people tell me. But there was like a big 5-foot one on climbing like all over someone's back patio on their furniture and like up the side of their house in the town that I live in. And I was like, oh my gosh, if that was me, I would never go on my back patio again. I don't have a back patio. I have a deck made of wood. And there's almost always snakes under wood. I know where I live. So probably under there all the time. But that'd be like hard stop for me. So anyway, I would rather do the emotional work of uncovering my fears and pulling the band-aids off than deal with that any day of the week. But it's a great time to do that. So just ask yourself, where are you holding yourself back because of fear? Do some shadow work around it. This is the season for it. And when you tap into the energy that is given to you, it helps you to replenish yourself and also be supported by all that is, because you are not alone, even though it can feel like that sometimes. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you at our free You as Sacred Space workshop coming up. And yeah, until next time, until the next episode, I hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead. If you liked this episode of the Expedition to Soul podcast, please rate, review, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it will really help us spread everyday magic, intention, and intuition to the masses, and helps us so much as a small business. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. There are new episodes every Tuesday and astro forecasts for the week ahead every Friday. If there's any topics you'd want to hear, anything you want us to dive deeper into, shoot us an email at magic@thesistersenchanted.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening and being part of the community here at the Sisters Enchanted. And we'll see you in the next episode.